Hello friends, Bones here with another Halloween movie to review. Today we're looking at a modern adaptation of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, aptly titled The Hollow. But rather than be just a remake of the legend set in modern times, it's more like a would-be sequel to the original story following a direct descendant of Ichabod Crane. So how well does this early 2000s teen horror flick capture the spirit of the legend? Let's find out. So after a rather long opening credits sequence with some creepy music, we of course start with the telling of the original Sleepy Hollow story. Our storyteller is our main character, Ian Cranston, played by this discount Zac Efron. Also in the cast is Nick Carter? As in Backstreet Boys Nick Carter? Well, I'll be damned. Now that 2004 release date makes perfect sense. Maybe that's why both he and Ian are rocking those 90s boy band haircuts. Nick plays a dumb jock named Brody, who is clearly a modernized version of Brom Bones to match Ian's Ichabod Crane. Unlike most dumb jocks in horror movies though, Nick, as I'm just going to call him from now on, takes the Sleepy Hollow legend very seriously. He drags two of his friends, Scott and Amber, to a local graveyard for a Halloween scare because he wants them to appreciate the legend.
The big deal is that you, Karen, and everybody else around here take the legacy of this town for granted. This should be the end-all, be-all of Halloween.
As you would expect, Nick just plays a stupid prank on them and they go their separate ways. With the Backstreet Boy gone, Scott tries to put Amber in the mood, but is interrupted by a strange sound from a nearby cabin. Yeah, this whole scene is pretty much one giant horror movie cliche. So much so that you know right away what's about to happen to Scott.
Hey, Amber, come and sit.
Off with his hand!
And then it's Amber's turn to bite the dust, but instead of a sword, she gets a face full of pumpkin. Oh, that TV movie early 2000 CGI, how we don't miss you. Meanwhile, when Ian is driving Karen home, she attempts to put the moves on him. But the movie says, none of that! As the local gravekeeper Klaus jumps in front of the car to get Ian's attention. It's a pretty common thing in this movie for the teens to start getting horny only to get interrupted by something scary. It feels like not a lot of effort is put into the scare setups when the film relies on the same setups we've seen many times already in the 80s. Of course, a lot of writers in the 2000s and even today love to fall back on horny teen plot devices.
Oh, there's no wedding. Just a lot of sweaty sex.
Nick Carter stars in The Hollow, premiering this Halloween only on the CW. As for Klaus, he's very much a Crazy Ralph archetype. You know the one, the kooky old guy who knows the legend of a local killer, who talks like he's drunk, and obviously everyone thinks he's nuts, but the main character accepts that he's right about everything only after the bodies start dropping. Yeah, he's that guy. As he tries to tell Ian about the real legend, the horseman makes an appearance looking for a head. Not!
Backstreet's back, alright!
You know, in case Nick being modern-day Brom Bones wasn't already obvious. Well, the next day, it's Halloween! Everyone is excited for the annual Sleepy Hollow Haunted Hayride, which is a real thing, by the way. At this point, we mostly get several minutes of expected scenes and cliché attempts at character development. Let me summarize this for all of you. Love triangle between a cheerleader, an actor, and a Backstreet Boy. People talk about the first two victims being missing. Klaus tries to warn the police and they don't believe him. Oh, and there's a father-son conflict between Ian and Neil from the Santa Claus. He wants Ian to be a football player, but Ian still wants to find his own path in life. Just one of those subplots that attempts to give the movie more dimension. There is a minor payoff for this conflict towards the end, but until we get to that point, it feels like very out-of-place drama for a horror movie. Aside from Ian surprisingly humoring Klaus this time by bothering to read up on the Sleepy Hollow legend after Klaus tells him that Ichabod Crane was a real person, the rest of this chunk of movie feels like a typical teen drama TV show, and you really just want to fast forward to the main event. So let's do that now! The night of the hayride, Ian has agreed to play the role of the storyteller who rides along with the guests and narrates everything to set up the hokey scares. Even the cheerleader takes part as the ghostly woman in white. But for the younger ones out there confused about a teenager named Karen, don't worry. Very soon we'll get a real Karen.
He well and heed my...
Excuse me, beautiful boy, excuse me, but this hay stinks.
I'll talk to the organizers when we get back. Is that all right? And I'll get it all taken care of.
Yes, you be sure to do that.
I honestly was surprised I never heard her ask to speak to the manager. Right before guests board the truck for the last ride of the evening, Klaus appears again to try to stop the whole event because the horseman is out looking for blood and only Ian can stop him. Naturally, Ian and the rest of the people just want to get on with the show like nothing's wrong, so the local sheriff talks Klaus into leaving with him, which is obviously a means of removing a crazy guy from a place without force. Right afterwards, this random couple shows up to try to get tickets, but since the event apparently doesn't run late into the night, they're unable to make the last ride. So what's the next logical action after this? If you said sneak into the grounds and make out in the horseman's cabin, you'd be an idiot, but you'd also be right according to these folks. It's clear right off the bat that even though these characters have names, they're really there just to die. Nope! Nope, I'm not gonna do it! Everyone expects a ton of head puns, especially with a death like this, but I shall resist the head puns no matter how obvious they might be. Besides, I know I'm gonna use up my cheap laugh allowance with the Backstreet Boys references. What can I say? I'm just trying to keep ahead of the competition. Oh, damn it! Meanwhile, the sheriff and Klaus come across the real Headless Horseman who keeps a jack-o'-lantern where his head should be. The sheriff thinks it's just some guy in a costume and pays dearly for his assumption. But I gotta say, when I look at the design of his replacement head, I can't say I blame the Horseman for wanting a new one. The jack-o'-lantern just looks so stupid. Clearly they were trying to go for something scary, but they would have been better off with something more like the poster jack-o'-lanterns found in Tales of Halloween or Trick or Treat. That on top of the Headless Horseman would actually be creepier, like that homicidal smile effect the Joker has. Well, luckily Klaus doesn't get attacked, probably because he was stuck in the back seat. Erica's not so lucky, which tries to warn everybody, and the real Headless Horseman quickly makes his way to the truck. Right then, Nick shows up to play his part, only to end up face to face with the real Headless Horseman who chases after him pretty far. You're overreacting, Nick. Maybe he just wants your autograph. Nick gets some good distance between him and the Horseman, thanks to his horse, until he gets knocked down by a tree branch. Right here, I was expecting the bully character to be killed, but apparently his celebrity status helps him survive as he makes it across the bridge from the legend and survives. He then finds Klaus calling for help, and he has to brave his way past the dead body to the old man. But this means the hayride is still in danger. Nick, of course, just wants to go home and watch out for himself, but Klaus gives him a pretty convincing speech.
You're part of a new legend, young bandersnapper. When people tell your story 100 years from now, you want to be known as a coward or as a hero?
Ian manages to get the guests off to safety, but the Horseman quickly shows up to chase after him. Meanwhile, Karen hides in the Horseman's cabin and finds an awesome jack-o'-lantern display. Here's where I want to point out that the film actually has effective use of sound for the Horseman giving chase. You really don't know how close or how far away he is until it's too late. The music's not bad either. After Nick saves Karen and Klaus saves Ian, the four run across the bridge and Ian and Karen share their first kiss. Oh, sorry about that, Nick. Because you're the asshole of the movie. But oh, it's not over yet. Since the Horseman can't reach Ian, he targets the next closest crane, the dad, who's at home watching horror movies with mom. Right on cue, the Horseman shows up to make his kill, but Ian shows up first and stabs him with a sword from the Revolutionary War. Yeah, they had to do a bit of grave robbing because apparently only something from the Revolutionary War can hurt the Horseman. Doesn't matter, it's more fighting. Complete with a stop roar sound effect? Okay, that really feels cheesy and out of place. It's not a demon or a dragon, it's a headless ghost of a guy! I seriously think the Horseman laughter from the Disney version was scarier, and that's just sad. You don't want to be less scary than Disney. After the Horseman takes off running, Ian tells his dad about the whole Crane family story and the Headless Horseman hunting down both of them. Surprisingly, this works, and the father and son team up to stop the ghost, only for Dad to get knocked out, and Ian ends up fighting the ghost in a sword duel. When a stab to the heart doesn't work, Ian is left with one option: throw him on the bridge! This causes the Horseman to burst into flames? I don't remember that being part of the story, but okay. The Horseman is reduced to ash, Ian and his dad reconcile, and Nick is branded as a hero by Klaus.
Don't you worry, son. Your reward will be far greater than the warm, supple embrace of tender woman flesh.
Okay, old dude, can you not say words like woman flesh near me? That's really uncomfortable. But as the characters walk off to enjoy their happy ending, we get something that many horror movies love to do when they want a sequel. A sequel tease in the form of an off-screen roar that only Klaus hears. And the credits roll. But there's no sequel to this movie, and honestly, that's for the best. This movie is really just an hour and a half of by-the-numbers horror movie cliches, but done in a TV-friendly way. I have to admit that the idea of the Headless Horseman being real and hunting the descendants of the real Ichabod Crane is a great premise for a Halloween movie, but the writers rely too heavily on horror movie tropes we've seen many times to the point where the film becomes very predictable. The biggest surprise was just that the bully character survives and has somewhat of an arc. The movie is also really cheesy. Some of the cheesiness is in a fun, early 2000s way, but the rest of it is just cringy. The kind of movie you'd really only have fun watching if you want something nostalgic to make fun of. If you liked this review, then check out our previous reviews of Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow movie or Hocus Pocus. Happy belated halfway to Halloween! Bye-bye, friends!